Welcome to The Explainer. Our whole goal here is to take deep wisdom and make it super clear, super actionable. And today, man, are we diving deep? We're getting into the mind of a legendary investor, Manish Chokhani. This is someone who doesn't just look at markets, he looks at life. All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. Think of it like four circles, one inside the other, getting closer and closer to the core of his thinking. We'll start way out with the whole world, then zoom into India, then get right into an investor's head, and finally, we'll talk about the soul of the game. Let's get into it. So first things first, we got to zoom all the way out. Because look, according to Chokhani, you can't understand any single market if you don't understand the world it lives in. And the world we've all grown up in, he says that was a total exception, not the way things usually are. And he loves to use this quote from Larry Summers. It's pretty provocative, right? Japan is a hospital, Europe is a museum, and China's a jail. Whoa. It's a really stark way of just hammering home the point. The old places you used to put your money, they've got some serious, deep-seated problems. So you gotta look somewhere else. I mean, think about it. For decades, the entire game was played by a set of rules written by the West. Since World War II, with the US as the top dog. Well, that's over. That whole era is coming to a close. Now you've got this new power block. Think Russia, China, Saudi Arabia. And they're challenging everything. The US dollar, trade routes, the whole shebang. And this is really the key takeaway from this whole global picture. Where does a country like India fit in? It's standing at a massive crossroads. Its entire future depends on how it plays its cards in this new multipolar world. And Chokhani's point is that playing this geopolitical chess game is just as critical as winning the tech game. Okay, so that's the big picture, the global stage. Now let's zoom in. Let's talk about India. And you hear about it all the time, right? This land of just unbelievable promise. But Chokhani is quick to say, hold on. He insists it comes with some really serious warnings we can't ignore. So get this. Just based on historical returns, around 15% a year, he does the math and says the Indian market could grow, wait for it, 16 times in the next 20 years. 16. That's just a mind-boggling number. It really shows you the sheer scale of the opportunity we're talking about. But, and this is a huge but, right after he throws out that incredible number, he hits you with a critical question. Is this growth a guarantee? Absolutely not. He warns everyone a country's success is never, ever guaranteed. He points to Argentina. They were once the richest country on the planet and then just completely blew it. See, he's adamant that this journey is not a done deal. And the biggest things that could derail the whole project, they're not external threats. They're internal. Things like getting complacent, thinking the job's already finished, a government bureaucracy that's built for control, not for speed, a justice system so slow that, as he says, the process is the punishment, and a culture of just copying and pasting from the West instead of creating truly original ideas. And he has this fantastic analogy to make it all stick. Indian cricket. Think about how it evolved. Back in the day, just playing overseas was a huge deal. Then, bam, a surprise World Cup win in '83. Then you get the era of a true genius, a Sachin. But to really win, what India needs now are the Dhonis. Leaders from anywhere and everywhere who have that burning ambition, not just to compete, but to absolutely dominate the world stage. All right, so we've got this changing world order, and we've got India with its massive potential, but also its serious risks. So what do? How should an investor actually think about all this? Well, this next part is the playbook. We're going to decode Chokhani's core mental models. Okay, first rule. Throw out your perfect straight-line Excel charts. Just get rid of them. Because in the real world, nothing moves in a straight line. Everything, and he means everything, is cyclical. There are seasons in the market just like there are seasons in a year. The whole trick is figuring out, is it spring for this industry, or are we heading into a long winter? Next up, it's all about making what he calls asymmetrical bets. Simple idea, profound impact. You're looking for situations where the potential upside is just ridiculously bigger than the downside. So what does that mean in practice? 1, your entry price has to be good enough that you can stomach a 33% drop without panicking. 2, you have to ask, is it even possible for this company to earn its entire current value in profits someday? Not probable, but possible. And 3, when you find that perfect setup, that fat pitch, you can't just take a tiny swing. You gotta load up. Now, this is really cool. He says to really get a business, you have to understand the deep inner nature of the person running it. He breaks it down into 2 types. The first is the kshatriya, the warrior.
This is your classic empire builder. They live to expand, to conquer. They literally can't sit still. They have to be growing, even if it means taking on massive risk or tons of debt.
Then you have the second type, the Brahmin. This is the knowledge seeker, the sage. Their driving force isn't building the biggest empire. It's being the most knowledgeable, the most respected. They'll grow their business, sure, but only to the point where their wisdom is recognized. And here's the key. Trying to make a Brahmin act like a warrior? It's a total disaster waiting to happen.
So where does the real magic happen? You guessed it. It's in those super rare individuals who are a blend of both. You know, the warrior who also has deep Brahmin-like wisdom, or the sage who suddenly finds that Kshatriya fire and ambition. That's the combination, he says, that creates those legendary companies that compound for decades.
And this brings us to the final circle, the very heart of his entire philosophy. Because for him, this is where investing stops being about numbers on a spreadsheet. It becomes something way, way deeper. It's actually a tool for understanding life itself.
So let's start with this number, $400 million. That's roughly what his firm, ENAM Securities, sold for. I mean, by any possible measure, that is a staggering success. That's the kind of outcome that defines an entire career, right?
But then, he puts that huge number into perspective with this quote. There's no joy in the finite. You'll find joy only in the infinite. And what he means is, all the joy you get from those finite things, the money, the power, the fame, it's all fleeting. It doesn't last. Real, deep, lasting joy, that only comes when you connect with something that's infinite. And this thinking leads to a massive shift in how you see yourself. He says, I'm not a body with a soul. I'm a soul that has a body. So all this stuff, our bodies, our bank accounts, our job titles, that's not who we are. That's just temporary packaging. The real you, the core of who you are, is something that lasts forever. You can't put a price on that. He even takes it a step further. He sees life as a big play, and our soul is just an actor playing different parts. You know, in this play, maybe you're the hero, but in the next one, God might cast you as the villain, just so your soul can learn that lesson. When you think like that, your ego just melts away from the outcome. Hero, villain, it's all just part of the journey. You stop obsessing over this one single result. And so, it all comes down to this final, really powerful question that he leaves us with. As investors, we are obsessed with one thing, right? Compounding. We want to compound our money. But he forces us to step back and ask a much bigger question. What are you compounding for? To what end? If the final scorecard isn't just a bigger number in a bank account, then what is the real point of the whole game?